Hey guys, in this episode, we're going to be talking about the two techniques that I use to conquer my mind and prime myself for living at peak performance every single day. By the end of this episode, you're going to have the knowledge and the capability to be able to apply them in the exact same way that I do. So without further ado, let's hop right into this week's episode. What is going on, guys? You're listening to Motivate, Grind, Succeed, the podcast, a show that systemizes success for you in the four foundational cornerstones of faith, fellowship, fitness, and finance through high performance habits. My name is Rasean, and I'm the host of the show, and I've been in the self-development space for over half a decade, being the guinea pig, testing all these things that I'm telling you, so you don't have to. If you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe to the show for weekly uploads. If you love what you hear, be sure to sign up for our email list, and if you hate what you hear, share it with a friend who I know, and you know, will appreciate what's being said today. With that, let's hop into this week's episode. So regardless of your current situation, there's always room for improvement in your life. And today we're going to be talking about two powerful techniques to help you break free from your self-imposed irritations and unleash that inner potential that we all know is in you. Because as we all know, you can either thrive or you can survive, but you can't do both. So technique one that I want to bring up to you, we're actually not going to say the technique yet. Okay, I actually want to run through this exercise with you. So long as it's safe, like you're not driving or you're not doing anything that's of critical, urgent importance right now, I want you to take 1 minute and just reflect on your day. If it's the beginning of the day and you just woke up, reflect on yesterday. Think about how many decisions was it that you made or actions that you performed that you did thinking about it, or were they just habitually done? Like, did you just do it on autopilot, or did you actually think about the actions that you did? Did you actually think about the thoughts that you had? Did you actually think about the decisions that were made that day? Think about it. Take a minute, pause me if you need to, think about it. And while you're doing that, I want to make one thing clear though. Habits, and when I say what the things are habitually done, I'm talking about the habits that we have. They're not bad, right? Habits are not bad. They're great. I talk all the time about building up those habits. Habits are good because it allows for our working memory, the working memory that we have from short-term to long-term memory. It allows for that short-term memory to be focused on what's actually important and those in-the-moment critical decisions. So it's good that we have that. But the reason why I asked you the question before, how many decisions did you make? How many actions did you take? I guarantee you I did not try to rhyme that. But how many of those things did you do that actually you thought about and you actually considered, I'm doing this because of this? If someone cuts you off in traffic, we're actually going to get to that example a little bit later. But if somebody cuts you off in traffic and did you blare on the horn, or maybe you want to give them a piece of your mind, was that a natural response or was that just out of habit? And the reason why I ask that is because the first technique we're going to be talking about is mindfulness. And mindfulness is not a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Mindfulness, you've probably seen on the internet people about, be aware, yogi position, lotus position, and put your fingers up and to a lot. We're not talking about that, okay? That's not the mindfulness that we're talking about. Being mindful in and of itself at the core involves enhancing self-awareness and actually helps you to regulate your emotions. So the example that I have for you is that when you're going off to work, like I said, you get cut off going down the road. What is your initial response? Is it anger? Is it rage? Is it frustration? I can't believe this just cut me off the road. Is that what's actually going on, like, in the head? What happens? Do you want to pull over? Do you want to grab the person by the jugular and just bring them over to the side of the road and give them a piece of your mind? Is that what you want? Is that what you want to do? And hey, like I said, no judgment. Whatever it is, that is what the emotion is for you at that point in time. Whatever you're feeling, naturally it makes sense, right? If you're upsetting the person, put your life at risk, they put their own lives at risk, they're putting other people's lives at risk, there could have been a car accident. Who knows what could have happened at that point in time? But here's where the mindfulness comes in, okay? I'm not saying don't be upset, okay? I'm gonna make this abundantly clear. I'm not saying if someone cuts you off to not be upset, okay? That's not what I'm saying here. Because we were given emotions, naturally you will be upset. You will feel some type of way. If you didn't, I'd be concerned for you. So I'm not saying don't be upset. But what mindfulness is saying is after you have that momentary frustration or anger or wanting to give the person a piece of your mind, mindfulness is now saying, okay, this person cut me off. but what can I do now to bring myself back to where I was before they did, emotionally, physically, everything? Because, they cut you off, heart rate's elevated, you going crazy, you in this type of zone now. What can you do now to just tell yourself, okay, bring it back. I'm okay. If someone's in the car, they're okay. If you got kids in the car, they're okay. The person who cut you off, they're okay. Everybody's okay. Yes, it was a very frustrating circumstance, but we're all okay. We're all alive. We're all here. We're all good. Again, I'm not saying don't be upset. What I'm saying is, how quickly can you go from being upset to bringing it back to, it's all right. Everybody's okay. Everybody's good. All right, let's continue on. God gave us the grace to be able to still continue on. Let's keep continuing on. Why do I say this? Because when you get upset and you stay upset, what are the chances you're actually going to see that person again? I can tell you the chances are very slim. Personally, I can tell you the chances are very slim, because there was only, out of all the times I've driven to work on the highway, I'm talking 70, 80 miles to work one way. Out of all the times I've done that, there's only been one time in the past, at this point in time, about 4 years, one time where somebody cut me off and then I saw them later on up the road because a cop caught them for speeding. That's only time. Every other time, I never saw the person again. I never saw the individual. I never saw the car. But every single time that happened, I still got home safe. So my thing is, now, after 3 to 4 years or so of driving on the highway all this time and getting cut off quite a bit, is just, I'm okay. You're okay. If anyone else was in the car, typically they're not, I'm just going to work, but I'm okay. That person's okay. I hope they get to where they're going safely and they don't crash and burn. But what can I do about it? That's what mindfulness comes in. What can I do about the situation? I cannot do anything about the fact that this person just cut me off. I had no control over that. But I do have control over how I respond to the situation. Not even necessarily how I react, because react and respond are two different things. And these aren't even on my notes now. I'm just going off on a little digression here just for a little background. Reactions, they happen instantaneously. Like I said, if someone cuts you off and you get upset, that is a reaction. Now, what you do after that reaction is now a response. Will you now, after you become angry, say, I'm going to give that person a piece of my mind? That is now a response, because now you are now deciding at that point in time to go give that person a piece of your mind. Versus a response, a reaction would be, whoa, he just cut me off the road. And then now the response is, okay, inner peace, calm down. That person just cut me off the road. Is everybody okay back there? Everybody okay? I know I have to swerve. Is everybody okay? That's a response. Is that easy? Absolutely not. Is it possible? Yeah. Like I told you, it took me 3 to 4 years to get from me going from I want to give the person a piece of my mind to now I hope that person is okay. It takes time. So don't expect this to happen overnight, okay? It takes time to get to this. In fact, a study actually was done before I even knew about this mindfulness thing. I didn't even know I was doing this, right? Before I actually practiced it. And so what I actually found was a study, and I'll link the study in this episode's description too, for people watching on YouTube or listening to me over the audio waves of the podcasting space. And the study was done that actually shows that having the ability to relax oneself allows for you to have an overall enhancement of life. When it talks about your overall quality of life, you have a decrease in anger, decrease in hostility, even decreases in verbal and physical aggression. Just simply being mindful, simply doing what I literally just told you to do that you should probably do. If someone cuts you off, is just take a deep breath, realize everybody's okay, and keep it stepping. And that means to do it genuinely too. Not just, just do this in general. No, genuinely do this. Because if you do this genuinely over time, you'll eventually get to the point where eventually things just tend to just not upset you as much as they used to, which is fantastic. I've been talking about mindfulness quite a bit. I've given you an example. I'll link the study. Chances are you're probably looking at it now or reading it now, or you already paused me and read it or anything. But now let's actually tell you about how to do the mindfulness thing successfully. Like I said before, it's not some big yogi thing. It's not some big, cross your legs and put your hands up and then start thinking of and start aligning all your chakras. No, it's not what we're talking about here. You don't have to do any of that. In fact, all you need is 3 things. And one of them you've already got. I guarantee. The first thing you need that you've already got is yourself. Okay, so we're already a third of the way there. All right. Next thing you need is some silence. Silence will work. I'm not in a perfectly silent room right now. I got a couple fans that are going because it's a little bit hot right now, but silence or just quiet. Like you want as minimal distractions as possible, and possibly a chair. I'd recommend having a chair as well, because what we're going to be doing, you may start to notice that you may start to wobble back and forth if you're just standing up. So I prefer just to have a chair. So what you're going to do, let's actually walk through the steps now. So if it's safe to do this, you can follow me step by step, okay? So the first thing you're going to do, you're going to sit in the chair comfortably, right? Your feet are going to be just flat on the floor. You're not going to be shaking your feet. You're not going to be doing anything. Just keep your feet flat on the floor in a comfortable position, okay? The second thing you're going to do is you want to have a comfortable, neutral gaze. You don't want to be focusing on anything specifically. Like I'm looking right now, I'm looking at my cologne. I'm looking at my shelf of cologne. You don't want to be staring at that. Wow, I have cologne up there. That one's getting low. Ooh, that one doesn't have one in its case. Ooh, I might have to refill that one. No, you're not doing that at all. You just, if it helps, look at a blank wall. That always helps me a lot of the time. Look at the most blank space possible on the wall. I don't have many blank spaces on my wall, but if you have a blank space on your wall, just focus on that, and then that is that. If that doesn't help and you don't know what to look at, just look at the floor. Hopefully your floor is clean. Look at the floor. Look at the floor. Just find something that you can look at with a neutral gaze that does not detract or does not get you all types of focused on whatever needs to get done. Assuming you're able to find something that you can stare at, that you can keep a neutral gaze, cool. Then what you want to do is you want to breathe slowly and calmly in and out. About, I would say, and don't count this either, but I would say roughly about 2 to 3 seconds, breathing in and breathing out. Don't count it, because then you're going to focus on the actual count, and then you're going to go, oh, wait, I think I miscounted. Did I breathe for 3 seconds? I breathed for 2.5. And we're not doing all that. Just breathe in and breathe out. That's your baseline. You want to focus on just the fact that you're breathing. The only thoughts are just breathe in, breathe out. Don't even count to 2. Don't do none of that. Just breathe in, breathe out. That's it. Now you wait. This is the most difficult part for people. A lot of times people can get the gaze, they can get the neutral gaze. That's a lot of time I call the second most difficult part for people. But the first most difficult part for people is the waiting in the quiet. If you did everything right so far, you'll notice you are now sitting in pretty much quiet or silence, no distractions. And now you have literally nothing to think about. You'll notice your mind is going to start wandering. It's going to go crazy. You're going to think of all the things you needed to do. You probably got to cook stuff. You got to go to the store. You got to do this. If you run a business, you're probably thinking, I got to work on this part of the business. I got to work on the marketing. I got to work on the sales. I got to work on the content creation. I got to work on this. You're probably looking at something else. Your gaze might divert to something else and go, oh my gosh, man, that dress was messy. It's going to go crazy. And that's fine. That's what the brain is supposed to do. What you want to do is when you start noticing those wandering random thoughts, remember the baseline? Bring it back to center. Breathe in, breathe out. That's mindfulness. Being aware of, okay, what am I experiencing right now? These are the questions you want to ask yourself. What am I experiencing right now? How am I feeling right now? Just focus on just being calm, being present, and being in the moment. Okay? That's what you want to do. Now, personally, what I do is I take this a step further. So if you want to borrow this, you could do that. What I do is I'll usually do this mindfulness and reflect on the day and what occurred. So typically what I'll do is every single day, there's going to be scenarios where I had a reaction and I had a response that was not favorable. And so what I'll do is if something had upset me during that day or something I was way too upset about and people didn't want to be around me, whatever happened, I'll just go through that scenario again and I'll analyze it during that mindfulness session. And I'll say, okay, what happened during that time frame? In fact, to make this even more realistic, here's actually what happens when the person had cut me off in traffic that one time. You know, when I got home and everything was done for the day, I just sat and I said, okay, that person in that vehicle, they cut me off. What could I have done differently at that point in time? Could I have been more observant to traffic in my side and rear view mirrors? Could I have been watching more? At the time when I was driving, I took inventory of how often I look in the mirrors, and I realized consciously I don't really look in the mirrors a lot now that I think about it. So maybe that's something I could do more of to be able to foresee what's going on. Okay. Maybe was I driving too slow? I was in the left lane. Was I driving too slow and the person thought I wasn't driving fast enough? I don't think so, because as I was driving, I didn't move, but the person kept swerving into all types of other lanes to find, essentially swimming through traffic, trying to find the fastest lane. So I don't think I was the problem of being in the left lane. Whether you're in a rush, potentially, They were probably in a rush to get somewhere, or seeing how the car was. I won't say what the car was because I don't want y'all to be some super sleuths out here. But the car was definitely a modified vehicle with a very nice sounding loud exhaust. So maybe they were just flexing the capabilities of the car, because it was like 7 p.m. I was heading home after work. So maybe they were just flexing that. They were just feeling good that day. Or maybe the opposite end of the spectrum was the person having a bad day. And I just happened to be the unfortunate soul who got cut off. Just thinking about all these things and just taking the accountability and putting it back on myself. What could I have done to make the situation better? Because I can't do anything about the person who just cut me off. I can't do anything about that. But what I can do is fix my response to that. After I realized that, what did I come down to? The fact that people are just going to cut you off on the road. You can't change that. I can't change that. What I can change is me being more prepared for a potential cutoff on the road. So since then, I started to try to really scan traffic a lot more and just try to make it a little bit of a game with myself as I'm driving to work. What else am I going to do for an hour and a half driving to work? So I just make it a game of myself and just go, okay, that car right there, they're looking like they're going into the left, back to the middle, back to the right, back to the middle. They're trying to find the fastest lane. So I presume the car in front of me, if I give them a little bit more space, this person's probably going to see that there's enough space for them to come in front of me, and they're probably going to go. How much you want to bet me? And I said, I bet you $1. Cool. They go right in. Now, boom, I owe me $1. Not legitimately. But you get the idea. I would start to make it like a game with myself. And so then I would also, again, as I said before, check the rear view and the side view mirrors. I would check those more often so I can start to see some of those patterns that people do. So now I'm way more observant on the highway. I'm way more prepared. And then sometimes I'll even say, oh, that truck over there, he's probably going to take that left to that right to that right. And most of the times they do. Because again, how can I respond? By being more observant, understanding the patterns of how people flow through traffic, looking for things, being more preemptive. This is just one example, but you can apply this to literally everything. Think about anything you got going on in your life right now. You can apply this same process to it. And over time, that's the key thing, over time, become better with it. Now, the example that I just gave you of me reflecting and being mindful of me being cut off in traffic is actually going into the second technique that I'm going through. Yeah, I know. We spent that long on the first technique. The second technique is visualization. Visualization helps you to achieve your goals by overcoming the mental barriers that there is. This is not end all be all. So before we even get into talking about the visualization and actually how to do it, and we're going to go through an exercise as well that shows you how to do this. This is not, when I say this, I mean visualization. Visualization is not you saying, I'm going to manifest this by thinking about it and hoping about it and dreaming about it. And I think I'm going to manifest $1 million and it's going to fall into my lap in a period of 3 months. And you're just going to sit there and do nothing different and expect $1 million to fall into your lap. Like, the manifestation doesn't work because you didn't work it. Okay, first of all, the chance of you getting $1 million by letting it fall in your lap is minuscule. What about the lottery? You have a bigger chance of crashing in an airplane than you have of winning the lottery. So good luck with that, number one. And then number two, you didn't set a SMART goal around it at all. Like, it's, okay, specificity, $1 million. Measurable, okay, you get the $1 million. Achievable, it fails the A. How are you going to realistically, and is it relevant? Is it realistic? Getting $1 million in the next 30 days? No. Some people can, but realistically, no. It's not going to happen. So it fails the SMART goal test anyway. So you got to set a better goal than that. Okay. But what is visualization then? Visualization is seeing yourself accomplishing some goal, accomplishing some feat. So yes, there is that picturing. There is that I'm going to picture myself doing it. But the most important part is taking action and steps towards doing the thing. That's the most important part. $1 million, like I said, will not fall in your lap just because you thought about it for 20 minutes a day for the past 30 days. It's not going to happen. You actually have to take steps and make action and make a plan and do these things. That's why I say all the time on the episodes, make a plan, smarter goals. We're actually going to be going through in a couple episodes from now. We're actually going to be going through my 3-step goal setting matrix where no, it is not just smarter goals. I preach smarter goals because they're very important and they're very critical to the goal setting process, but there's actually 2 other steps to the framework that are there. So stay tuned for that episode in a couple weeks. You're going to love it and it's going to be super interactive. So stay tuned for that. But back to visualization and back to the $1 million example. Who doesn't want $1 million? I'm going to raise 2 hands up, right? Because I want 2 million. Why not? What's wrong with getting $2 million? But here's how it's going to work. You're going to visualize getting $1 million, but not as you probably visualized before. If you've done visualization before, you probably have the idea of, oh, I'm just going to imagine I have $2 million and oh, I see it raining from the sky and oh, it's so beautiful. Oh my God, $2 million. No, we're not doing that. This time, again, if it's safe to do so, similar to the last technique that we did with the mindfulness, I want you to do this for me. I want you to close your eyes, okay? Bear with me for a second. Just close your eyes if it's safe for you to do. And I want you to now visualize using all your senses, okay? What do you see? Picture it in vivid detail. Again, the same $1 million example. What do you see? Are you at home? Are you in your car? Are you at work? Are you at the beach in the Bahamas? Are you in Cabo, Mexico? Are you in Greece? Are you on a cruise ship? Where are you when that $1 million or that $2 million hits your bank account? Do you hear a cha-ching? Do you hear excitement? Is family around congratulating you? Are friends hyping you up? What do you hear? What's going on? If you're on the cruise ship, do you hear the splashing waves going on? Do you hear the chatter of everybody going about their normal daily lives, unbeknownst to them that you just hit the literal jackpot? How do you feel in this period of time? Are you excited that you just received a life-changing sum of money? Are you nervous because you don't know how to use it? Are you ecstatic because now you can make the changes? You can upgrade the house. You can finally pay off the car. You can pay off the credit card debt. You can do all of these things. You can buy the nice trips. You can get that first class seat on Southwest Airlines if you want to. You can get that beloveded A1 position. What do you want? Picture it. Use all the senses. Now, open your eyes. If you really went deep into the questioning and answering, you ask yourself those kind of questions truthfully and picture them in vivid detail, keeping it realistic, of course. Okay, obviously you're not going to see $1 million literally fly out the sky, but as long as you keep it realistic, chances are you're in a much, much better mood now. And if you did it right, you just witnessed the power of visualization. That's the power there, literally changing your mood from wherever you were to a better position. And we're actually going to get into why it works just now. There's 2 reasons why, if it's done correctly, why this tends to work. Number 1, usually using visualization utilizes the visual cortex of the brain. Okay, I'm going to get sciencey on these couple of points, actually. So if you don't like science, sorry, you have to skip past these next couple of minutes. But if you don't want the nerdy science stuff that I really enjoy, here we go. So as I said, it uses the visual cortex of the brain. This allows you to embed the positive emotions into your subconscious. So the more you do this, the more subconscious will actually recognize that this is something that is important to you. And it will be called value tagging. This is where the brain will prioritize the thoughts that you've been having primarily, so that way you are now primed to be able to grasp at the opportunities and see the opportunities that will allow that thought to come through into reality. So that means if you've been thinking about the $1 million a lot, making it seem as realistic as possible, as if you've already accomplished it, your brain will naturally find ways that sound good as you come across things that'll say, that's a possible way I can get closer to the $1 million. And these things will just jump out at you. Hands up if you've ever heard of this thing called the red car theory. If you never heard of the red car theory, in a nutshell, it's, let's say you go to the car store and you buy a red car from the car store. And now you're so happy with this red car that you got from the car store. And now you're driving your red car that you got. And now all of a sudden you're seeing not just red cars, but your car that you just got everywhere. Why is that? Because the car is something physical in the physical world that you have given a very strong positive emotion to. And so now because of that, your brain and subconscious have now value tagged this car as something important. So now when you see this red car or you see your specific make, model, and year of car that's around, going around, driving around, you realize, hey, How come I've never seen all these cars before? You have. It just hasn't been value tagged as important. The second reason why visualization works so well is because it leverages, here's a big word, neuroplasticity. If you haven't heard of neuroplasticity before, in plain Jane terms, it's the ability for our brains to stretch, learn, not like stretch and get like big and become like Megamind, but actually to be able to grow, create new neural grooves, and for us to be able to formulate new habits. So when you visualize, the regions of the brain that are activated are the exact same as the ones of you actually experiencing something. That's why when you see, for example, if someone is deathly scared of needles and they watch on the TV, just a needle sitting there, they will have sometimes a physical reaction. Why? Because the visual cortex was primed with that information from a past experience they had that made them fearful of needles, that gave them a response physically in the physical form, because the needle was value tagged as danger. So now they recoil or change the channel or skip past that section. What's going on? You see how powerful this stuff is? When you do it right, you see how powerful this stuff is. So let's bring it back. Let's get off the sciencey stuff for a minute. Like I said, only a couple minutes. That's all it's been. So let's bring it back to my own personal mindfulness and visualization example that I said with the cutting off in traffic. So being mindful of my emotions and how I respond to that scenario can help me to, over time, become not so quick to become angry or to become riled up. And then the visualization portion of me visualizing myself in that scenario again and again, running through the different questions that I asked myself during the mindfulness activity in extreme detail, would then prime my brain to allow me to respond differently when that scenario comes up again. Are y'all catching what I'm putting down right now? This is some serious sauce that I'm putting down right now. So the most important thing that I want to leave you with, though, as we wrap up this episode, is that just like all habits, this is in and of itself a habit, a very high performance habit. And it takes time, like serious time. Like I've said a couple times in this episode already, I've been driving to work for about 4 years now. And for me to be able to get to the state where I'm at now in terms of people cutting me off and things of that nature, and that's just one example. There's still other things that happen on the road that probably don't happen as often that still will get a response out of me that is not favorable. So it's consistently trying to continually do this over and over and over again. And like I said, it takes serious time. Strictly speaking about the cutting off in traffic, it took me almost 4 years to get from me being that upset to me realizing, okay, this is just what happens. What can I do to change that? And changing my behavior accordingly. That took almost 4 years. Okay, this will not happen overnight. Now, I'm not saying it's going to take 4 years for you. Some things are done quicker than others. Some things may take years and decades because it's so deeply ingrained. But the point is, you have to start today after this episode. And on top of that, keep consistent with it. I want you to remember that this will not happen overnight. This is self-improvement we're talking about here. It's going to take some serious, concerted, serious effort to make this work. I've given you some tools on how to be able to start helping you thrive, but you can't do both, and the power's in your hands. So take care. I'll see you all in the next episode. Guys, that's going to wrap up this week's episode of Motivate, Grind, Succeed, the podcast. Guys, again, if you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe to the show for weekly uploads. If you love what you heard, be sure to sign up for that email list. And if you hated what you heard, be sure to share it with somebody who will appreciate it. Also, if you guys want to get access to the show notes or any kind of resource or link or to anything that was referenced in this episode, be sure to check out that episode's description below. You'll also find the contact information, any freebies, or any sort of thing from our little corner of the internet. Check out the episode's description. It's going to be an absolute gold mine for you guys. Until next time, take care, and I will see you in the next episode.